Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Today, we're going to talk about something very fundamental that makes us who we are. And I'm going to write for it, integrity. What does your integrity look like? My mom always used to say, make sure your credit is good and make sure you have good integrity. And it really does define your identity. However, what if you're not living the way you feel you should? Maybe you're living the way others want to see you. Are you fully being the person you should be in terms of your integrity? We're going to talk about that and a lot more with somebody who practices a comprehensive integrative life coaching and training program. He's created something called OptimaLife Practices, and he's back with us. Mike Corral joins us on the program. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing great, Steve. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, very well. And this word integrity is very near and dear to me. I'd like to think that my integrity is pretty high, and I've worked hard at it. I've deflected some things along the way, and people around that didn't align. However, sometimes we're living life not as we want to, but as others want us to. It's a lot of times you're in a relationship and they're influencing the way you are, and you gotta kind of bend a little bit. Let's start there, in terms of not living the way we feel we should be living.
Right. Well, it's important to know, first of all, that what integrity implies is our word to ourself, especially, and foremost, because it's easy to cheat on ourselves. It's easy to say, well, I told myself I was going to do this, but I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go back on my word to myself, because it's us. It's easy. When we put it in the perspective of keeping our word with others, we're a lot more strict, and we tend to be less forgiving when it comes to keeping our word with other people. But the important thing to realize is we're, as human beings, we're not always able to keep our word per se, but we can keep our integrity by simply admitting and owning up. Hey, listen, I told you I was going to be here at this certain time, and I was not able to do it. And I just want to apologize to you for that and let you know I couldn't keep my word. That allows us to keep our integrity with ourselves.
It looks like communication. It's communication, because just basically, what you said, it happens all the time when you're in that situation where you said you were going to be somewhere, or we got plans Friday night, and then it didn't. Something happened. That's life. But it's the way you present it in terms of being honest, being sorry, apologetic. Maybe things have changed. I think a lot of times we don't fully communicate how we're feeling for fear of maybe being judged a certain way by somebody else.
Yes, or not approved of.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when we fear not getting the approval we want, we're fearing being rejected, and ultimately fearing being isolated. None of us want to be rejected. None of us want to be isolated. And those two things come into play.
That's a great point, because in my understanding, and tell me if this is true or not, that the number one thing that a lot of us deal with is feeling like we're not good enough. And that comes from our childhood, right? So that plays perfectly what you just said, that let's say we had to change plans, or something happened, and we're not as apologetic as we really should be, or we just don't phrase it in the right way because we're afraid of being judged, or afraid of being looked at like we're not good enough, not worthy enough. And maybe it was something that was outside of our control. It just happened. We weren't able to keep those plans.
True. Sometimes we set unrealistic standards for ourselves. It's more common to have those unrealistic standards when someone else is setting them for us, because they don't know us at the level that we know ourselves. And yet we allow it to happen, making the expectations unreasonable for ourselves. So the bottom line is we have to look at, am I capable of this? Is it in my nature to do this or to be this kind of a person? And if it isn't, then we have to be honest up front in the very beginning and say, look, you want me to do this, you want me to do that, but I'm not sure I'm capable of doing that. I'm not sure it's in my nature to be that kind of person for you. Once we're doing that, and we have to do that with ourselves on a daily basis. We have to really take a look. Sometimes we want to measure up, but we really can't. And we don't need to beat ourselves for not being able to meet up.
So let's say you're in a relationship, let's go with marriage. And, it starts out great, but then things kind of change a little bit. And maybe one person is dominating over the other slightly. Maybe the other person doesn't want to create a riff or whatever it might be, but you're feeling out of sorts because you're really not being the authentic you,
Right?
Because of that relationship with the other person. How do you get back on track?
It's it's a little complex, but it's not that difficult. Um, one of the presuppositions in NLP it says that the person or the system with the most flexibility of behavior will dominate the system. We need to look at how flexible can we afford to be in this situation. How much can I give to the situation, and at what point will it begin to detract from my integrity? At what point will I stop being my genuine self by being flexible? And that helps us to set our internal boundaries. And we don't always look at that. We sometimes are so willing to give that we just kind of cross our own boundaries and we compromise our integrity, and then we feel bad afterwards.
It's challenging in a relationship because it could go on for a period of time and you just get used to it. But you have, after a while, that could potentially, I would imagine, turn into resentment. It's just like, oh, I'm just doing it again. She wants me or he wants me to do that again, or, act a certain way, correct me when it's not really justified, or induce their opinions on me. I guess it does come back to communication, but after a period of time, it's hard to start that communication, I guess, in a fresh way.
Right. Well, we have to reach a point where we agree that if we're going to make any changes at all, it has to be mutual. It's not going to be one person making all the changes for the other. It's going to be both people meeting each other halfway at least, and then reassessing at that point. Can I continue to do this? Can I afford to do this without compromising my integrity? Or if we continue to do this, it's just gonna make us a totally different person that we don't, that isn't likable anymore.
Sure.
It's unlike the person that we thought we were.
How much of this comes into play with our intuition? Because I truly believe this is the pilot. It's inside of you. It's telling you. And I'll think back to even some meetings I may have gone to, maybe a sales call, things like that. And I thought to myself, I'm being very honest here. I thought to myself, you know what? I probably shouldn't go. It's probably not going to amount to anything beneficial. It's probably not somebody who I really want to work with, but I'm just going to go and hear it out. But inside, it's like, don't waste your time, man. Don't waste it. It's not good. It's just, and sure enough, it turns out that way. And I'm just giving one example. It could be, you're meeting, you could be on a dating site and you go to meet somebody, but you're thinking to yourself, this is just and I don't want to manifest the negativity. It's just this saying, you probably shouldn't even go. But you do. I guess almost to prove yourself right or wrong at that point. But this as your compass. What are your feelings about that, Mike?
I think it's worth investing in keeping that compass healthy and your priority. You not only do you respect it, you learn to honor it. You learn to reward it. So when we listen to our gut, and it turns out, boom, yes, I'm glad I listened to my gut. You have a little celebration about that. Yes, I'm going to do this from now on.
Hmm.
On the other hand, when we know we've gone against our better judgment, and it turns out, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. At the same point too, say, I'm never going to do that again. We tell ourselves, and we remember after a
Hmm.
while to listen to your gut. A healthy gut is worth listening to.
Yeah, it's tough though because there's also the fear of missing out. So you might say to yourself, well, if I don't go, maybe it's wrong. Maybe it'll be okay or better than I thought it would be. But it goes back to what you're saying. You have to be able to get to that point where you have faith in yourself, you
Yep.
trust what's coming from within, and let go of the fear of missing, of the FOMO, fear of missing out, or all of that. And you just got to take that leap and say, I'm not going to do that. Just that
Yep.
it doesn't feel like a good idea.
My wife and I went to some trainings, and one of the things they kept telling us, and I could see what was going on. I could see why they were doing this, but they kept saying, opportunity passes. You may not have, once this opportunity goes, you may not have it again.
Yeah.
And what we buy into that, we play it over and over, but guess what? Opportunity always comes back. A new opportunity will always be
Hmm.
there. So the fear of missing out is canceled out by realizing that just because you missed this opportunity, maybe it was my gut that said don't do it, and I'm glad that I did. I'm looking forward to the new opportunity because that one is going to be better suited to who I am.
Hmm. If there's anything that we say today that anybody takes away, it was that.
Yeah,
It's true.
that was a
Like,
big one for me.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm texting with friends earlier today, and as a group, I recently met them like a year ago, and they're going out tonight. Somebody's birthday. There's a thing happening at a restaurant bar club thing, and I'm like, wow, I really got things to do tonight. Got to get ready for the holidays, etc. And I'm like, missing out on that. I don't know. I wish I probably should go, but something's telling me, no, you can't go. but
Yeah,
but there'll be another opportunity for everybody to get together again at some point.
yeah,
Like you said, it's going to come again. And you
yes,
just need
yes,
to listen to your gut intuition feeling.
right.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and that doesn't always mean that uh, I don't know, there might be a little bit of regret. Maybe I didn't get to do this. God forbid, there's an opportunity that won't come in. Say you couldn't go to the meeting or the get together, the gathering, and the person dies. Well, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. But
Mm.
that could also have been a good thing too, because that person will be left with the memories of you that were before that. Who knows what you would
Mm.
have brought to the scenario before that happened? There are a multitude of things that could have happened. But
Mm.
if we acquiesce to say, yes, it's a good thing that I did it. I know things didn't work out. I know that maybe I won't be able to have this opportunity again, but it's for the best. What happens to us is for the best, according to our decision. We have to have faith in our decisions.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. And to realize if this is telling you something, it's for a reason. It's not just something that popped in your head. Your intuition is saying you need to do this or you need not to do this, whatever it might be.
Yep.
And like you said, just realize that it's not. Yeah, there'll be other opportunities. We forget that, and thank you for the reminder on that.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to live with regret or the negativity, and it kind of keeps us safe from getting our hopes up. You'll tell people, think about the positive, think about what could happen. Well, no, I don't want to get my hopes up because I don't want to be disappointed.
Sure.
Well, guess what we're doing? We're mustering up, we're building disappointment up. We're holding disappointment on a pedestal. We're focusing on disappointment. And guess what we bring into our life? By
Disappointment.
the disappointment.
Right.
You know, it's good to get your hopes up because hope can create faith. Hope can give you something to look forward to that you can actually manifest in the future.
100%. I've abolished this these words, this phrase from my vocabulary, and that's, a situation happens. Maybe it didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to, and you say, "Well, it could be worse. Well, it could be worse." What you're saying is to your subconscious, "Be worse, be
Right.
worse."
That's right.
It
You
doesn't
know,
know,
because the unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. If you say don't do this, what you're going to do is this,
right?
not the don't part. So if I tell you don't think of a pink elephant, your
I just
mind
thought
is
of
going
I
to
just
think
thought of a pink elephant.
that's right. That's right. So if I told you something to do instead, think of a gray elephant. You're going to think of the gray elephant. So what we want to do is we want to process our thoughts to be what we want them to be. So rather than focusing on what could happen if you don't do this, focus on what could happen if
Mm.
you did do whatever it is you do want to do.
There is, well, it's called NLP, neuro linguistics programming,
Yes.
and it can also be used, and that's to influence people and also to for a favorable outcome. But it's also used in advertising and marketing. I mean, how
Oh
many
yes.
times have you heard, like, this is just a basic example, don't buy a car now unless you go
Right.
to the ABC car lot. So right
Right.
away, it's you're
Yes.
refocusing. You got my attention on the negative, and now you're
Right.
telling people what to do. So what did I say? Buy a car now, but you're thinking, yeah, I got your attention by saying, don't do it, don't do
Yeah.
it. But your
Yeah.
mind, like the elephant, like the pink elephant.
Don't buy solar panels. The state of Massachusetts or New York or California is giving away free solar panels. You know, those are all the things that the good advertisers, the effective ones, I'm not going to say good, but effective ones are
Sure.
going to use those NLP things.
Yeah.
When you study it, it also teaches you how to insulate yourself from that kind of influence
Hmm.
if whenever necessary, because we're all subject to it. There's a way to insulate yourself from that kind of coercion or that kind of influence, by training yourself and making it a part of your everyday language.
Interesting. Let's go back to integrity. Very important in our identity. Any thoughts, any broad thoughts on how to improve our integrity, how to, I guess, take your integrity temperature and see where you're at?
For some of us, it's not an easy thing. And when I deal with people that want to change their body image, weight loss or weight gain or muscle tone or any of those things, one of the first things I ask them to do is to get in front of a full length mirror and take everything off and
Hmm.
look at it with an honest eye and say, what can I change? What can I not change? Well, I can't change how tall I am. I can't change my skin tone or any of those things. Um, what is up to me? What part of what I'm looking at is up to me to change? And then ask, how willing am I to do
Hmm.
whatever it takes? The bottom line is sometimes, I know for me, I could put on muscle really quick, but I just don't want to go through the trouble of working out at the gym and doing all these different things. I stay busy, I stay healthy, but do I look the way I want to look? No, but I'm
Hmm.
okay with that because if I did, chances are I'd be living a whole different life. you know all of those things matter, they change. I've dealt with couples who have one, the wife wants to do plastic surgery and have breast augmentation or butt augmentation or whatever augmentation they want, and the husband will say, I like you just the way you are, but if it pleases you, go ahead and do it. Well, guess what happens? It pleases them and it also pleases a bunch of other guys out there, and something happens to the relationship
Yeah.
because that person has now put on an image of something other than what the spouse wanted in the very beginning and was happy with in the very beginning. So it
And
has these effects.
and there's also the other scenario where the husband may be saying, "No, I don't want you to do that," but deep down inside, he's feeling threatened.
Right.
He won't admit it, but that's what he's feeling.
Imagine if we could be honest with each other and say, look, I think if you do that, it's going to take you away from me. I think
Hmm.
somebody else is going to start looking at you. And maybe, I also wonder if I'm not enough for you. Do you think you need to impress someone else other than me? I'm already impressed. Are you tired of me?
That's
If we
but
could
that's
communicate,
that's a challenge though, because then
it
the
is.
woman is going to feel that maybe she needs it for her self-esteem, maybe that she's not even thinking of attention from really anybody else. It's her own thing. But now her husband is controlling that. And then that there creates a rift. His insecurity creates a rift. And I'm looking at it from all sides. I'm not saying one is wrong.
Well, that's a good point because what that does, it brings us back to our internal compass, that internal thing, back to our gut. Maybe some of that needs to be adjusted.
Mm.
Maybe she's not pleasing herself. Maybe she's not, and I'm not just, it's not just women. Men do this too,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, but we make these changes because we're not satisfied with who we are. Sometimes we need to be okay with that. And once we're okay with who we are, that's when we're going to be attracting the kind of people into our life that are suited to to what we like about ourselves. If we're trying to
I,
change ourselves constantly, we're always going to be doing that.
and well, that's the evolution. We're always reevaluating everything, ourselves, relationships. I hear it's every 5 years. It's a number that always kind of goes out there in studies. But I guess it also goes back to the age-old thing. You need to love yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and love who you're becoming. We can track it early on. I'm becoming this kind of a person. If more people are dissatisfied and more people want to be around, less people want to be around us as we progress in life, are we isolating ourselves? Maybe we want to be alone, and that's how we do it unconsciously. A lot of stuff we do unconsciously that doesn't get accounted for because we don't bring it to the forefront. We don't acknowledge it. We don't admit it.
How do we do that? Excuse me, in the couple of minutes we have left, how do we, I guess, take the evaluation of who we are and our integrity? Is it as simple as take a few minutes, maybe a half hour, and write down, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I identify with? All of that.
Yeah. I think it should begin, and this is just me, and I know it's worked for several people. I think it should begin in the privacy of our own heart and the privacy of our own mind because it's protected there. It's
Mm.
protected from the judgment of other people. It's protected from criticism. It's, criticism and judgment skews our decision making process. It skews us from making a wholesome decision. What am I capable of? What am I good at? What am I passionate about? And then taking it from there. Sometimes we need to even ask ourselves, why am I passionate about this? Why do I pursue what I'm pursuing? And we can find honest answers. When we get used to being honest with ourselves in the privacy of our heart and mind, we get better answers.
Mm. That's so
Once we
powerful.
once we live with those answers, we can tell anybody about it.
Seriously, like if we have certain behavior, let's say you pick certain people for relationships and you wonder, I don't know if that really supports me, but I'm still hanging out with them. Maybe ask yourself, but really, really soul search. I find writing things down is so beneficial because now
Yeah.
it's, our brains are, it's like a vacuum. It's like bouncing all over the place. You try to, get clarity. Then you're thinking of this, then you're thinking of that. You write it down. It's staring you in the face. It's like a mirror.
Yes. Yes, it
Mm.
is. And like that's step two. That's one step beyond doing the privacy in your mind. Once you can put it down, even to yourself, even if you're the only one who's going to read that, that's the next step
Sure.
because it helps you to acknowledge it and evaluate it.
I guess that goes back to why they say journaling is so important. And it's the
Very important.
right?
Yep.
And it's
Yes.
the connection between our mind and our hand where and I'm really, I'm talking old school, writing it down as opposed to typing it because there's something about writing it that connects with your mind.
I
Uh,
agree 100% with that one.
Mike, how do we connect with you? If somebody wants to maybe uncover a lot of this stuff or find out really essentially who they really are or navigate through relationships, how do we find you?
You can go to optimalifepractices.com or you can give me a call at 508 648 0825. Set up an appointment. If you go to the website, you can set up a free consultation. We'll talk for about a few minutes, figure out what's right for you, what works for you.
Excellent. Great talking with you today. I'm going to say really great talking with you. We didn't get as deep as I thought we might go, where it might be a little bit hard to understand.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, it's a great thing. It's very clear. And yeah, I realized some things in myself. I'm sure others did as well. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Happy holidays to you and your family too.
Same to you, Steve. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Happy holidays.
You too. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.